Big John, the bouncer, our bouncer, joins us now. A little late. He had to work, but it's all good. We knew we'd get him. What's up, brother?
What's going on? Yeah, my 11:30 conference call got canceled, so
Oh, well,
had some other stuff going on too. So,
thank God for that.
yep.
All right, so I know you've been over there. That's just all a front. John's been over there mingling with the scouts. What are you hearing?
I just got a text. I don't know about 10 minutes ago that Juju and Delvon Campbell both ran in the 4.3s.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Really?
which I'm not surprised.
Okay, wait a
I'm
minute.
not surprised about Juju, by the way.
Is this are we talking like electronic, the way they do it at the combine, or are we talking about a guy with a stopwatch?
Well, it's definitely stopwatches, but you got about 12 stopwatches on you.
Right.
So, and they're running on the artificial grass. But they do that at the combine too, which,
Yeah.
you know, I hate artificial grass. It's harder to run on. Your speed is not what your true speed is. I'd rather almost run on grass or a hard surface. But
So when the draft comes, they will be listing those two guys at a 40 time in the 4.3s, because that's very limited company.
yes, well, I'm not surprised by Juju.
I'm not either.
Already knew how fast he was. That's why he was our return guy for all these years.
Right.
We knew what kind of speed he has, and I mean, even watching him in high school, he's from my hometown. He just ran past everybody, so no surprise there. Campbell, I think we kind of saw his speed towards the end of the season when he turned it on.
Yeah.
And a lot of the big plays and big long catches he made, not running everybody. So,
Mhm.
not surprised there. Other than that, I hadn't heard any, jaw-dropping numbers from the rest of the guys who have run, but those two have stood out today in the 40.
Do any underclassmen, non-draft guys, just kind of take part in it just for giggles?
No, you may no, nah.
Okay.
That's not allowed.
No.
I wasn't sure if that was permitted or not.
No.
I mean, they go out and help out, but it's not.
Yeah, there's a big time recruit in the house too. He was also at Halls last night. I'm not going to say who it is, but top 40 recruit in the country is in town.
Well, I can say who it is. I think they reported on it. It's Darius Gray.
Okay, did they?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That's been.
It was
you're,
low.
You're okay.
It was low key last night.
Yeah,
so
you're all right.
Give it away, but
yeah, they Hale and those guys. They don't let anybody have their moment. They blow the cover off. No, I'm just kidding.
there
But
you go.
yeah, so hold on. Let's stop with Delvon Campbell real quick, because we haven't talked about him much. I know that most everybody else has, and all the conversation has been on where's Eamon Warry going to end up, and then how many of these other guys can sneak into maybe the first, certainly the second, third rounds, and then how many total draft picks. But I mean, he's a 6'4", 200 and what is he, 225 pounds, I think, or so, somewhere around there.
I don't think he's quite that big.
Okay, 215, somewhere in there. I mean, he's well over 200, but he's a big kid, and he did turn it on late last year for South Carolina. How if you're if you're a wideout who's creeping into the 4.3s unofficially, but certainly if you're unofficially in the 4.3s, I can't imagine they're missing.
I mean, even if you're that
4.5.
big at wide receiver running in the 4.4s, that's
right. That's my point.
Amazing.
Even if they missed it by a few ticks, what does that do for him?
Well, I mean, he's going to get an opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's going to get an opportunity somewhere as a free agent. I don't think he's done enough to get drafted. But here's the only good thing about these pro days, and guess what? I've been through it. You get one-on-one individual time. There's more things that happen at a pro day than does at the combine. Combine, you're just out there running drills and stuff. On a pro day, you're actually getting out there, lining up, running routes, catching balls consistently. If you're an offensive and defensive line, they're going to put the offensive linemen that are out there and the D tackles and D ends, they're going to put them in a pass pro, and they're going to go against each other in pass pro in front of the scouts. So there's a lot more that happens at a pro day for an individual versus the combine. The combine is just all about numbers and athleticism to see how athletic you are, how your hips move, how you turn, all that good stuff. The pro day is a little more intimate. You see more than you would at the combine.
I'll say one more thing on Davon Campbell, because everything I'm looking at has him as like a 4.5, 4.58 guy. If they validate that time, that's a nice little bump. There's a big difference between a guy his size that runs a 4.58 and a 4.3 whatever in terms of the scouts.
I mean, like I said, even if it's in the 4.4s.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, he's still a physical specimen, but I mean, he's not on anybody's draft board right now. If all of a sudden they starts going around that he runs a 4.38, that could be a different story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that could obviously improve his stock to a late round draft pick, but I think it's kind of something like you saw with, God, his name is slipping my mind. Jason, who's with the Cowboys, wide receiver 2 years ago?
Which one?
2 years ago.
From where?
He's with the Cowboys from South Carolina. He's with the Cowboys now.
Jalen Brooks.
Jalen Brooks.
Jalen Brooks.
This is what Delvon reminds me of, is Jalen Brooks. Like, Jalen didn't do a ton, right? Jalen didn't do a ton, but he did make plays, especially down the stretch his senior year. Right. And guess what? It wound up he's been on the Cowboys for 2 years now. So you can maybe see something similar to that with him.
It happens. I mean, there are guys that were not ultra productive wide receivers in college due to a myriad of factors. Maybe it's the offense, maybe it's the quarterback, maybe it's he's a late bloomer, what have you. And then all of a sudden they sneak through late round pick, free agent pickup, and all of a sudden they're studs. It does happen.
Yeah, it does more times than not. And, I don't know. Good for him if those times turn out to be that. Now, they will take the times from the day, and the scouts will all gather with each other from what they have written down, and they'll kind of average it out and kind of see exactly where it's at. But, I mean, listen, I missed out on the combine, but my pro day here, I ran a 5.13, and it was listed on the NFL site as that was my 40 time.
Let me go through the list of guys and just get your thoughts, and maybe some intel from pro day might factor into this. This is from draftcountdown.com. We all know Eben Worry is just about consensus first-round pick after his combine, where he put on an absolute freak show clinic. Second round, and I've seen him later than this, but on this particular board, Kyle Kennard and TJ Sanders. Third round, Demetrius Knight. Fourth, fifth round, these are third-day guys. Rocket Sanders, O'Donnell Fortune, Tonka Hemingway. Sixth, seventh round, Debo Williams, Bam Martin Scott, Joshua Simon, and DeAndre Jules. Undrafted free agents, Groger, Huntley, Campbell, Simpkins, and that's it. Any thoughts on those?
No, I think pretty much that's all spot on, honestly. I think that's about where I had them. You'll see a couple more guys on that list. They'll get their opportunity to go to mini camp with some team and try and make the team, or at least make the 95-ish that can get invited to camp, the fall camp. So yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. Like, I think Juju, I know he's small, but he's a pretty much a sure-handed returner, and with his speed, some team is going to invite him to mini camp to give him an opportunity to move forward.
By the way, that list I just gave, that if that did come to fruition, it's just a list. You can find 10 others. That'd be 11. That'd be 11 Gamecocks drafted, which would obviously be a new record.
Yeah, I think I said on here I think we'd get 9 to possibly 11, but I think you definitely at least get 9.
To kind of back up y'all's point pertaining to the player specifically, CBS has the position group rankings going into the NFL draft. And obviously, with pro days and stuff going on, maybe some of this fluctuates. This is just a couple of days old. The number one overall group that they have is the defensive tackle group, which really isn't shocking. You don't have to get far outside of the SEC to realize how deep that is. A quick note there of the top 32 grades, they list a couple of guys: Mason Graham, Walter Nolan, Omar, Norman Lott. But there is a note that said Oregon's Derek Harmon and South Carolina's TJ Sanders are slightly outside of the top 32. The second group they have is edge rusher. The third, offensive tackle, which that is a deep group. Fourth is corner. Fifth is wideouts. Sixth is running backs. Seventh is safeties. And the three that they have, of course, Eamon Wari is in that group with Malachi Starks and Kevin Winston Jr. 8 is tight end. And how about this? The ninth group they've got ranked is the quarterbacks, which not shocking. 10 at linebacker, and then all interior offensive lineman 11. Do any of those rankings, is there something that stands out there with those position groups that applies directly to the young men that are in contention to get drafted for South Carolina?
I mean, what are you asking here?
Well,
where
the debt, like for instance, like we looked at South, Mike made this point the other day, right, about how much talent was on the defense. Well, we've all made the point, but Mike, I remember last week Mike was specifically talking about it. And you go, okay, gosh, you're replacing TJ Sanders, you're replacing Kyle Kennard. It just so happens that those happen to be the top two position groups in the draft. You know, any other year, maybe they're almost surefire first rounders, but now you're going up against, 11 or 12 other guys, it seems like, just to try to fight your way in there.
Yeah, and you know what? This thing swings so much. Like last year, the quarterback group was ranked high. And, all those quarterbacks went in the first round, just like a pile of them, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's why sometimes, say you're a junior, right? And let's do this. Let's take Nick, for example. All right, you see how far down the safety group's ranked, right? What'd you have it at, like 7th or 8th?
Yeah, it's at 7th, I think.
Okay.
7th,
so that says there's not as many high-level safeties in this draft class. So guess what? It moves Nick straight to the top, and he doesn't have to worry as much about other guys maybe getting drafted over him. So that's a good thing. This thing switches every year. But, yeah, for us having 4 D tackles in this draft, there's a lot more competition for them to not get drafted or get drafted as high as maybe in another year they would like to.
Yeah, I think it sheds gives you some perspective on trying to apply the round to the player, but you got to be careful because it really falls more on position group than y'all see what I'm saying? Like if you're a defensive tackle that maybe goes in the 3rd or 4th round, universally that's going to be viewed as, well, he was a mid-round pick. But when you look at the depth of the group, maybe next year or the year prior or 2 or whatever, you could have been more of maybe a late first rounder or somewhere in the second round.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
it happens every year. There's always a couple of groups that, this year is just so top heavy, and then the following year is at the bottom. So it's just the way it goes. I mean,
this year on D linemen and running backs is absolutely loaded, and is really weak on quarterbacks. Someone's going to reach for Dart in the first round, and then I don't know if another quarterback goes for a while. And there's a lot of reservations on Shedeur Sanders. People are not wowed by his athleticism. So it's cyclical. You just never know. But of all years to be a defensive lineman coming out, it is loaded this year with top-notch D linemen.
It is for sure. Which at one point TJ was rated, first round draft pick lock.
Yeah.
On the D line, but now all the guys have come out, because you got some juniors in there too, that they don't count. They don't count when they do their early draft predictions, right? They typically don't count the juniors; they just do all the seniors. So yeah, I mean, it's a loaded class. So it'll probably hurt some of our guys in the long run, as
Okay.
far as money wise.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just
You
out of
guys
curiosity.
want?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jim.
No, you're good, Mike.
Well, this is it's related, but it's not related. But I love. I'm kind of a football nerd, and I love this type of stuff. Since we were talking about Dale Von Campbell, the potential of him. Let's just say he went undrafted, but could still make it. Top wide receivers that went undrafted in the NFL draft and still went on to great careers. You guys will know these names. Rod Smith of the Broncos.
Yep.
Won 2 Super Bowls. He went to like Southwest Missouri State and went undrafted, lit it up. Wes Welker, pretty good out of Texas Tech. Victor Cruz, went undrafted, 2-time Pro Bowler. Adam Thielen, still playing in the league, most recently with the Panthers. He went undrafted. He played at Maryland. Which I did not know that. Old school, some people will remember Alfred Jenkins of the Falcons, Miles Austin of the Cowboys, just to name a few. So it does happen. Who was the Gamecock wideout? He might have been a contemporary year Strick or maybe a little bit before. And I don't know if he went undrafted or was just a late round guy. He did not light it up at all at Carolina, but had a solid NFL career. Do you know who I'm talking about? Not Sterling, not Brooks.
They played with John or before John?
Either played with, I think it might have been before John. I think it might have been like late 90s, mid 90s.
Zola or Jamel?
No, Jamel didn't make it.
No.
Marcus Robinson?
Marcus Robinson.
Yep, there it is. Yep, Marcus.
That's the guy. Like Marcus, I don't think he was a high pick. I can look it up, but.
All right, and he played for the Vikings.
Had a solid career.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Marcus Robinson.
Not to be confused with DeMarcus Robinson, his son, who went to Florida, I think. Didn't DeMarcus Robinson go to Florida? Pretty sure he did.
They're related? That's his son?
Yeah. He visited South Carolina.
We're getting old.
now you mentioned Rod Smith. Where did Rod Tidwell go to school?
Rod Tidwell.
Arizona State.
Arizona State.
Arizona State.
Yeah. He was a Sun Devil.
That's my favorite sports movie of all time right there.
It's so good.
It's up there. I could have done without the love story and the You Complete Me, but it's overall it's very good.
You got to add.
You got to get the ladies in the seats. Yeah. I understand. That's a Cameron. That's a dimer. I'll put Jerry Maguire as I've seen it at least 10 times. Marcus Robinson out of Fort Valley, Georgia. Mm-hmm. He was a 4th round pick out of Carolina.
There you go. Yeah, I thought he was drafted.
Played with the Bears for 5 years, the Ravens, the Vikings for 3 years, the Lions, even did a stint with the Rhine Fire in 98.
Oh.
He was the MVP of NFL Europe in 98, and that helped him continue his NFL career. But, he was a guy, he was about 6'4", 215, and he was clocked at a pre-draft of 4.45. So he goes in the 4th round, was not ultra productive in college, and obviously had a very solid career.
Well, what round or what year did he go in the 98 draft?
Yeah, so late 90s.
Right? Okay, because he played with Anthony, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sorry, and 97 he was
97,
he was a 4th
round
round pick.
Anthony.
He did.
So he played with A1. Yeah, he played with A1, and you mentioned the other names that kind of stole the show on those teams: Kelly and Zola, and
Zola. Man, I love
Zola was a stud recruit.
Yeah,
I mean that was no dark horse.
Yeah, he was. Man, he was. Now his son played at Wando and went to. He went somewhere small, but I was hoping he would turn out to be as good as his dad. Not to diminish that young man in any way, shape, or form. Zola Davis was just that was my guy. Zola Davis was the dude. All right, let me ask you this. Let's talk about the Panthers for a second, because we all know they're terrible, but there's 6 or there's 5 Gamecocks that are in the starting lineup if you revert back to the end of last season. And when you include Xavier Legette, JC, Jadeveon, Dylan Wonham, or maybe there's only 4. That's 4, right? And then they just signed Rico, so that's 5.
Yeah.
Okay, they've got the whole house here today. I mean, Dan Morgan's here, the linebackers, coaches, scouts. I mean, you got there's probably 7 or 8 folks from Charlotte, which really isn't shocking. I mean, you're only an hour
My
away.
wife's not happy that the Cowboys let Rico go in free agency. She's not happy.
Big Dallas fan.
Yeah,
Oh, huge. So yeah, because Rico had a hell of a year this past year.
He did.
He was one of the few bright spots of the team.
Well,
amen to that.
There's no question. And now you got him and Chuba Hubbard as, I guess, 1 and 2, right? What do you think the likelihood is that the Panthers for the last few years have been? I mean, they've signed some Clemson guys, but it almost. I'm not saying the players that they have. We all know that those are good players. JC's a good player. I mean, he's the highest paid corner in the history of the league now. We know about Jadeveon, who is, kind of at the tail end of his career, I guess. DJ's a good player. We know about Xavier Legette. I think the best is yet to come for him. But it does seem like the last couple of years, the Panthers have tried to force some Carolina blood into this organization. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like they've tried to do. I say Carolina as in like the state itself or these states. Maybe they're trying to attract more fans. I don't really know.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, they're not. That's not why they're doing it.
I'm
sure some people are like, hey, we get some South Carolina and Clemson players on the team, we'll get more fans. I don't. You're going after to try and get the best roster you can to win.
Well, I would hope so, because I don't think at the end of the day, if you're a Panthers fan, you don't care if those guys played at South Carolina or Clemson or wherever. You just want them to win.
Right.
But what is the likelihood, just understanding how bad they were this past year and who Carolina's got coming out? Maybe somebody ends up with the Panthers.
I think you could definitely see somebody off this team. I mean, we got a lot of good players coming out in the draft this year.
Yeah.
So I would not be shocked if, the Panthers fall in love with a couple of guys and are able to snatch them up at some point. The Panthers, man, just, it's crazy. I saw a stat that Clowney was like in the top something of quarterback pressures this past year. Still doing it 12 years later, right? His sack numbers weren't like at the top of the league, but his pressures were right there at the top. I think it was like top 3 or 5 in the league. I don't know. Maybe one of y'all can look that up, but
I called his game with the Ravens a year ago. He had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss in that game. I mean, he's a one-trick pony, but it's always going to be a valuable trick.
Oh yeah.
If you can get to the passer and wreck the backfield, that's what Jadeveon does, and he can still do that. I don't think he turned into the freakazoid that a lot of people had hoped or expected. It was almost impossible because they made him out to be like this science fiction character after the Outback Bowl play.
Well, I'm a Texans fan, right? So the first 2 or 3 years in Houston, I mean, he was banged up and injured the entire first 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then finally he got it together, and he had that 1 year where he wasn't, stayed healthy all year. The Texans made it they make it through the conference title game maybe. And Clowney went off that year, Pro Bowler, made some incredible plays that year. His health just kind of, those first few years in Houston just could never stay fully healthy. And that's what kind of, didn't get him where everybody had hoped he would be.
Well, sack numbers wise, the last 2 years with Baltimore and Carolina, he's put the second best back-to-back years of his career. 17 and 18 obviously were the best in Houston. We had 18 and he's only got 58 career sacks, which is kind of hard to believe.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the expectations, like he was going to go in there and get like 150, and that's pretty hard to do. Like, Myles Garrett, that's a generational NFL player. What Myles Garrett is.
Yeah, and we'll go back to this. The first 2 or 3 years at Houston, he was just injured the whole time. And then when he went to Seattle, he got injured that year out in Seattle. So he just had injury issues that has not allowed him to get those sack numbers that everybody thought he would get.
Right.
I mean, when you sit out that many games, I mean, that's a lot of sacks left on the table.
Sure.
Houston, Seattle, Tennessee, Cleveland, Baltimore, Carolina. I guess I didn't realize he's played for 6 different organizations.
Bounced around a bunch.
Wow.
Bounced around a bunch.
I don't know why that didn't. So what do the Panthers need?
They need some defense and some offensive linemen is what they need.
They do need offensive linemen.
They need defensive players. I mean, I will say this: their defense. I don't keep up with the Panthers a lot, but their defense played a lot better towards the end of the season last year than the way they started. They just got to find something to click with that offense. I think that's been their Achilles heel, obviously. The quarterback position, offensive line, and then I think they're bringing Rico in for a solid running back. So I don't know. We'll see.
And they've got peace of mind now. There were a lot of people that were a little premature on the Bryce Young as a bust.
Yeah, he improved as this.
Dramatically.
Once he got back in there, he improved the last half of the season.
Yeah, you just got to help him, like you said. You got to block for him. He's not a big guy at all. So you have got to surround him with an offensive line that keeps him clean. Give him some playmakers. They've had the running game's been solid, but he needs some wide outs, a playmaking tight end, all that stuff.
And they have some really good wide outs. It's just holding up in pass protection so the quarterback can distribute the ball. That's been an issue.
Yeah, I think a lot of their defensive issues last year stemmed from the fact they were just on the field the whole game. I mean,
offense couldn't do anything.
We've seen that in Columbia. I mean, if you can't score any points, how much are you gonna ask these guys to do against the best in the world? I mean, it's tough. There's no doubt. Eamon Wari did not, from what I understand, run the 40.
Oh,
today.
He doesn't have to do a thing.
He doesn't have to do anything. He can sit over there and watch the whole time.
Just hang out, pal.
You just sit there on your recliner, have a cool one.
He has nothing else to prove.
No, when you do a combine like he did, you don't lift a finger until draft day.
You just stay put, young man.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. How much at pro day, like at the combine, you have the interview process and the Wonderlic and all that stuff. How much I know they're not doing the Wonderlic here, but how much of an interview process do you have at pro day, John?
How much what now?
How much of the interview process is done at pro day on campus?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I do remember at our pro day, which I'd already taken the Wonderlic at the Senior Bowl, but they did get us in the team meeting room and pass out all the packets and it was timed and everybody had to sit there and take the test. I don't know if they still do that or not. The teams that are really, really interested in a player, they're going to bring them to their facilities and do interview processes and private workouts. But they'll all get worked out today individually, more so than the combine. The combine's more just drills, and it's one guy up, one after another, after another, after another. So they're just all flying through it. Here, it's like I said, it's a little more intimate. You're getting more one-on-one with these scouts and whatever coaches from the teams are over there. They can get a better look at a guy. So I'm sure Nick's going to run through some of that. But other than that, he doesn't have to do anything.
You could probably go as fast as Nick Eamon Wari if you have an electric bike, electricbikescharleston.com, up to 28 miles per hour. That's right around Nick Eamon Wari's speed. Mike asked the question earlier about underclassmen. Of course, they're not working out, but many of them are out there, including Lenora Sellers. How valuable is this time for some of your future guys that are going to be in this thing maybe in the next year or two, just for some of these scouts who are hanging around looking at their teammates to get a peek and maybe have a quick chat with some of these cats?
How
much does it happen?
I don't know how valuable it is. I think, maybe somebody like Lenoris, maybe some of these NFL guys are, hey, casual conversation or whatever, but they're all there focusing on the guys who are working out. It's not so much the underclassmen guys get any attention. Not saying like somebody like Lenoris will not, but it's not typical.
Well, is Lenoris throwing to the wideouts today or no?
I don't know if that's allowed or not. Who knows? I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't know what the rules are on that
I
because I
would
know.
think he'd be allowed to.
I would think so, but who knows, right?
And if you're the
It's been a
receivers,
long time. It's been a long time since I did
yeah.
this.
I mean, if you're the receivers, you want the guy throwing you the ball that you're most familiar with.
I would
Right.
think. Yeah.
You don't want to bring in a backup to that.
Wait a second here. We got
I think
our
Phil's
report.
going to throw the balls.
So from our friends up here in my neck of the woods at Dark Corner University, apparently Mr. Klubnik was out there throwing to his potential pass catchers for their pro day.
There you
so
go.
I don't know if that's just what they're doing, but
Well, Phil, I will say this. I mean, they do want all these wide receivers that are out there running routes and catching balls. So either Lenoris is doing it, or Air Nolan, or Dante Reno. Somebody's out there throwing them the ball. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure those guys are out there throwing to them.
Well,
yeah, but I mean, and you got to figure that only increases sellers, visibility at least.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, not that he's, not that we're hiding him down here or anything, but
well, that's if he was playing at Southern Cal, they'd be hiding him because they're not going to play a spring game. Remember, I love Shane's response to that yesterday. He's like, if we don't play a spring game, it's not like people don't know who our players are. I mean, they're pretty.
That's cover for coaches just don't want to do it.
Yeah. Beamer was like, "What?
I don't want to bother with it." That's all that is.
Well, I mean, Davis Bevel. I mean, I'm not saying Davis Bevel has a, maybe he does have a chance. I don't know, but he's definitely
he's one that's definitely out there throwing. Obviously.
He's got to throw.
Yeah,
obviously reason because he's participating.
Yeah, so maybe he's the guy. I don't know what.
Yeah, but that's a lot of balls to be throwing. So I'm sure they may rotate some other guys in there.
Let me show you. Let me show you the guy who's going to start for us this year. Lenoris, come on over here. Let me introduce you to these.
Well, Lenoris is probably never mind. Let me be quiet.
Let me introduce you to these gentlemen. They're from the National Football League. And because we are not going to play a spring game, nobody's going to know who you are until we get to August 31st. I'm just kidding. Any more boots on the ground news from Dark Corner University, Phil? Thanks for chiming in.
Oh, you never know what they're talking about up here. It's I don't know. It's an echo chamber of orange fog that I live in up here. Still, after all these years, just completely lacking in local coverage of any substance.
That's what you're there for.
Well, yeah, this is true. That's true.
Well, I've got one final player I wanted to ask John about. What about Debo Williams? Obviously an undersized linebacker, but he's done nothing but make plays since he's been in Columbia. What do you think about his future?
Well, like I said, I was shocked he was not invited to the combine. All right, you got 300 and something guys invited, and then you don't invite a first-team All-American or first-team All-SEC guy to the combine and give him a look, which is fine because guys get drafted just out of pro days, just like today. So I think he's got his opportunity to show what he can do, show his athleticism, and we'll see where it goes. Like Mike said, I mean, some people got him being drafted late, and some people got him as a free agent. So we'll just kind of see how his day goes.
Do you want me to read what my guy here on Draft Countdown says? He says 6th or 7th round for Debo.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Quote, the only player from South Carolina who wasn't invited to the combine or an all-star game that I think should be drafted. Williams is a team leader who is a heat-seeking missile on defense.
He is.
He has tremendous instincts and bursts into the hole. I believe he can carry running backs and tight ends in coverage. At worst, Williams will play on every special team.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Like,
love that.
For a guy like Debo, I think he gets on a team as a special teams player, and then maybe after a couple years, maybe he works himself in the role of the rotation at linebacker.
Who does that remind you of, but on the offensive side? Pat DeMarco.
Yeah, there you go.
That was him to a T.
Yep,
put me on special teams. I'll do anything you ask me to do, and then he becomes a team rep.
You can stay in the league if you are a great special teams performer, Strick. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's not like college where
you can have a long career on special teams.
Yeah, and you don't have like 100-man roster in the NFL. You have 53. You dress 46. And those guys, a lot of the players you see out there, they're also doing special teams, you know. So,
yep, the special teams guys are there to maybe come in for a few plays and give a guy a breather, but they are the special teams starter. That's what they are.
There's 25 working out today. My goodness, if 11 or 12 hear their names called, oh man, wow, that what a wave that flag, Carolina football. That would be something absolutely tremendous. Well, John, we always appreciate the time. You're pretty tremendous yourself. And if you hear anything, make sure you break into JC and Phil Mad Dog show coming up here and give us some breaking news or something.
Of course.